I understand why people are acting as if it's business as usual. We all have a fear of survival. And in that fear of our survival, then we're fearing what it is that we may lose. So we may turn to an individual like a Trump who promised us the world when inflation is out of control, when we feel like things aren't necessarily going the way that they're supposed to. The problem with this focus on our fear of losing is that we are getting that fear manifest. We're losing our rights to reciprocity. A government by the people and for the people believes in this sense of reciprocity. If I'm a billionaire, then I have a duty to my fellow citizens to also ensure their well being. Instead of that reciprocity, what we get are billionaires who have taken over the White House simply to hold on to their wealth. They're dismantling a government of reciprocity. And this reciprocity can look like things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. It can look like doing what's right for our veterans and other citizens. And so instead of deciding to pay their fair share, they've made it seem like the problem is this reciprocity, and they're dismantling our government bit by this bit. Government is an experiment. It's an experiment in governance by logic and reason. You can read this in Thomas Paine's Age of Reason. You can read it within the Constitution, within the Bill of Rights, of where these principles of reciprocity, of ma'at, that comes from an ancient Kemetic or Egyptian understanding. If you understand January 6th, then you can see that very thing happening currently. We have Trump and Elon Musk shitting on government institution after government institution, raiding buildings and taking them over with absolutely no logic or reason behind it, simply to just gut and cut. It's important to understand that this is a direct result of what has happened with the civil rights movement. We see a dismantling of the system that allowed a people to rise up, that allowed a people to be able to voice their opinions through logic and reason. You can see through the civil rights movement's use of nonviolence that they turn to these principles of American democracy. That if we can demonstrate through logic and reason that these people are being unreasonable, then we could win the day. And that is exactly what happened. And so when we wonder why the Department of Education has to be taken down, when we wonder why there's such a fever to go after something like affirmative action, it's important to know that they no longer want us to be educated. They no longer want us to be an informed people. And the reason why they no longer want us to be an informed people is because they can pull the wool over our eyes. They're playing a game of chess while their media is telling us it's a game of checkers. And because we believe it's a game of checkers, we're basically so distracted with this sense of survival that we are all acting as pawns while they act as these other pieces on the board. These pieces that get to move across the board in these ways that most people can't understand. And so what we are told is that our position on the board is based on hierarchy, in the sense of caste, if you want to talk about it from a Hindu perspective. You are born into these positions that allow you to move around the board. Right? And so this gives us hierarchy. And supremacy is built on said hierarchy. It's a supremacy based on race, that if you're a certain race, then you are guaranteed a certain position on the board. And this is the way that colonization is being played. We're being taught this hierarchy so that we accept our position as pawns on the board. But the truth is something completely different. The truth is that your position on the board is based on your ability to focus, your ability to harness your own free will, your ability to hone in on what it is you want and go for it. We see people all the time like a Kobe Bryant, a Michael Jordan, a Beyonce. These people really focus in on what it is that they want to do, and they're able to move in these great ways. We all can harness our focus and do great things, but they do so much to take away our focus. We're distracted by our phones, by our media, by our food, by drugs, by sex, by all these different things that will simply take our focus away. Even in the sense of how they tell us to work, they tell us to multitask. This is so that our focus is spread out. And now that our focus is spread out, we are mediocre in a bunch of things instead of great in the one thing that's in front of us, which is life. The Matrix, as a movie, is talking to us about this fact that we have a choice to be able to make. We have a choice to focus in on what it is that we want, but that takes practice. That takes skill. That takes our ability to constantly come back to what it is that we should be focusing on. This is the point of a spiritual practice, like meditation, like yoga, even in the sense of our Christianity, our Islam, our Judaism. From a mystical standpoint, these are all trying to teach us how to come back to a place of love instead of being in our ego. It is within our ego that we can be easily distracted by our desires, by our belief that we're right, by our sense of comfort, if you will. The ego is always talking about the past. It's always talking about what we've been through. And so it will allow us to be in these loops. But yet the spirit is always in the mystery, is always looking for what it does not know. It is always looking for the expansion of life. So it's no wonder that the powers that be would much rather have us be in our egos, in our desires, in our flesh, or going with the devil. To be someone of their spirit is to be someone of expansion, someone constantly dying to their old self so they could be renewed and doing new things, being in new ways, and being also in our love. Love is acceptance. If I can accept the world as it is, then I can move in ways that I did not understand before. But if I accept the world as it was, if I accept the world as I assume or as I expect it to be, then I am doomed to repeat this loop, this pattern over and over again. It is a revolutionary understanding to be spiritual individuals. It is in that spirit that we may achieve, we may do more, we may do greater things. It is in that ego that we may be restricted, enslaved, or suffering.